Hello and welcome everyone. I hope all of you are safe and doing well in this global pandemic situation. Before moving on to our discussion, I would like to give a few updates for all the viewers. I know I'm uploading a video after quite a long time, but it was too much chaos due to COVID that I did not get a chance to record a video. I've been lately seeing a lot of hiring posts for Flipkart on LinkedIn, people offering referrals for SD1, SD2, SD3 at Flipkart. So I thought I'll cover my experience in detail in this video. Now, in the coming 2-3 days, I would be uploading a complete guide for people who are planning or preparing to pursue their masters in the States. I'm currently recording a video with my friend who has received admits from quite a lot of universities, including the Ivy Leagues. So, yeah. And also, someone mentioned in comments to upload a complete guide for Intuit. So, my agenda was to record videos for companies I've cleared myself, and to be honest, I have not taken part in Intuit's interview process before. So I was trying to record a video with one of my friends who is working as a SD there, but due to COVID, we were not able to coordinate our timings. So the video might take some more time. So just stay tuned in. I'll try my best to upload it as early as possible. Now, though I am trying my best to cover as much as possible, but if you guys feel that there is some company or topic or certain type of a video that you want, do mention in the comment section. If feasible, I'll record and upload. So yeah, that's it on the updates part. Now, let's begin with our discussion about SD hiring process at Flipkart. Well, not discussion actually. Let's begin with the monologue. So, as always, I'll be covering some information about the company, the culture, the kinds of projects and the teams you can expect there. Second, I'll be talking about the requirements. So, the GPA criteria, the application procedure for off campus placements, and then what kind of preparation or resume you need. And then a discussion about the interview process or my interview experience with Flipkart. I've also compiled interview experience of my friends, so I'll be talking about my as well as his experience. And you can find the timestamps in the description, so feel free to jump to relevant section. Now let's start our discussion with the overview of company, talking about the different aspects related to the company. Now, the parent organization of Flipkart is Walmart. You all must be aware of that. And there was a pre-placement talk for Flipkart during the hiring time in my college. And it was mentioned in the PPT that a lot of common features that are now tightly embedded in the e-commerce ecosystem were actually introduced by Flipkart. So, for instance, cash on delivery and one-day delivery were actually introduced by them, and now they have kind of become the industry standards. And the team also explained the kind of problems they were solving or they were working on, and those seemed really interesting to me. One of the most interesting ones was that in India there's no set nomenclature or pattern for addresses, especially in remote or rural areas or old places. So they were developing a technique to turn addresses into standard and complete address. So which seemed to be pretty interesting and a tough problem in itself. And also I've heard a lot about Flipkart's work environment. So they have a really conducive environment for developers. They actually value their developers a lot and provide all kinds of perks along with a really good work-life balance. So I mean that is something you really look forward in your company. And some of my really brilliant friends are working there. So I mean I'm taking this fact for granted that the developers at Flipkart must be really good at what they do. And talking about, so this is about the culture and the kinds of projects they work on, and they have multiple teams and roles. So, and I guess they have openings across various roles as well. To the best of my knowledge, I've seen openings for backend, front end, Android, iOS, and the problem which they told, the address problem, is basically will use the machine learning technique. So I think because address completion and then converting it into a standard form in an automated way is something where you can use artificial intelligence. So I think that there must be a research team for that as well. So if you're interested in any of these roles, you can probably try at Flipkart. Now, yeah, I guess that's about it. Now, moving to the requirements and preparation part. So there was no GPA criteria for applying. Everyone could apply when Flipkart came, and for me it was kind of an on-campus as well as off-campus experience. Now they shared their job description and a Google form in our college placement WhatsApp group, and we just had to fill the Google form to apply. Now, normally when a company comes on campus, it is listed on the job portal, and everyone has to go on that central portal and apply via the portal. So this Google form thing does not really happen. So it was kind of on campus, off campus thing. So yeah, as I mentioned in the beginning, recently I've been seeing a lot of LinkedIn posts for Flipkart hiring, and by the frequency of the posts, I can say that Flipkart is, I guess, hiring really aggressively right now. And you should definitely reach out to these people on LinkedIn and ask for referrals. And they definitely have a job portal as well, and I've seen openings there as well. So you can go and apply. But I think you should first go and ask for referrals from people who are posting about these openings. Now, moving on to the preparation part. In terms of preparation, I think DSA is the main focus of Flipkart for freshers. And I interviewed when I was a fresher, so I'm not sure about SD2 and so on. So I strongly suggest to practice a lot of DSA questions if you plan to get placed at Flipkart. Now, in data structures, try to cover as many basic data structures as possible. And in the so yeah, so by basic data structures, what I mean is linked list, stacks, queues, and then your binary trees, then your binary search trees, and yeah, what else? Heaps, segment trees, and your tries, graphs, maps slash hash map slash hash table. Now you must all be thinking ये तो almost सब कुछ ही हो गया. But I think that there are some advanced data structures which you can leave. So those are basically AVL trees, red black trees, and your B trees. I think those can be ignored. But अगर by chance वो भी पूछ लिया तो ये मत कहना कि मैंने बोला था, छोड़ दो. So yeah. So now also it is absolutely necessary to go through all the famous questions on Geeks for Geeks. At least I mean, at least as there is a very high probability that you might get an exact same question in your interview. But for people like me who do not remember questions even after practicing them like 2-3 times, so uh, I mean, practice is the key, but in the sense that you should be so well aware of the data structures, algorithm concepts in it, in itself that you don't need to actually remember that what was happening in the question. You just need to know the concept, and then any kind of question comes, it'll pop up in your mind that this is the technique, and then you can start brainstorming from there. So practice is the key. Practice a lot on lead code, so that even if you might have not seen any of the questions before, you can come up with an optimized solution at the cost of maybe extra 10 to 15 minutes or so. And I don't think that that is a big deal. But one thing is that I have noticed during Flipkart interviews that the interviewers are keen on getting the most optimized solution possible from you. So start with brute force and keep thinking and suggesting more optimized technique till the interviewer is satisfied. So that's one thing you can keep in mind. And apart from DSA, in terms of your projects and resume, good projects and previous experience would be helpful. Uh, I mean, I did not have a discussion on any of these in the initial two rounds, but in the last round, I was asked question on these, and the last round was most probably the hiring manager round, as the interviewers seemed really senior and experienced. So yeah, that will be good for a discussion, but I think they were not really focusing on that you must have something really good or, that should show up, but always like good projects and previous experience adds brownie points. So it's always good to have them on your resume. Now I'll discuss this hiring manager round in the next section in detail. Let's move on to our next section with this. And now, as I mentioned in the beginning, I've compiled mine as well as my friend's interview experience, and I'll try to cover both simultaneously. So, my initial round was an online coding round. It had three DSA questions. One was ad hoc, second, I do not remember exactly, and the third one was a coding intensive question. So for the third question, I remember making a hash table where the value of the table was another hash table. So yeah, coding that becomes a little tricky with the time constraint, because then there's a lot of compilation errors because there's so many levels of nesting. Now, but all the questions could be solved with brute force. So they were actually good problems. So but the constraints given were light, so they can be solved in normal time with brute force. But if the constraints would have been good, then it would have been really difficult to solve all three questions in that time limit. Now, for my friend, it was slightly different. So he did not have his online test because he applied via referral, and I applied via that Google form. So he applied through referral, and his first round was a machine coding round instead. Now this is something which even I haven't seen before. Now in the machine coding round, he was asked to design a marketplace and write the code for it, and it was just code, like no database was required. The interviewer gave him the liberty to assume that everything was in memory, and everything can be done in memory itself. So he had to add different functionalities like add product to the marketplace, then sign up, sign in for users, and search product in the marketplace. For search, he also had to define the strategy, like how, in what order is he going to display the. So if someone says iPhone, in what order is he going to display? So he basically chose the strategy where best reviews come first, and if there's a tie in review, the lower price comes first. And then he was told to print print on the console all the transactions that were happening, the buy sell transactions. So I think he did not actually have to implement those buy sell transactions. He just had to print them on the console. Now, after the online round for me and for machine coding, and after the machine coding round for him, there were two DSA based interview rounds. So in the rounds, I was asked a variation of the knapsack problem, a greedy problem similar to the famous car and petrol pump problem, then a problem based on try similar to the word break problem, And finally, I was given the famous question where you have to find the longest substring in a binary string with, and the substring should have more number of ones than zeros. So that, so mostly all the problems are fairly common problems, and that's I think all of them are famous on Geeks for Geeks. So that's the reason I told that. Do I mean it's I think really good if you could cover the famous problems on Geeks for Geeks. Now, my friend was asked problems on stack and topological sort, so he told that those were fairly straightforward questions. He was also asked a problem where he was given two binary strings as input, A and B. Now, our task was to convert A to B, and we had to do this with minimum cost. And there were only two types of operation he could do. So the first operation was swap indices I and j in the string A, and the cost for this operation was basically absolute of I minus j. So he could swap the two things at indices I and j, and the cost was absolute of I minus j. And the second kind of operation was to switch 0 to 1 and or 1 to 0, and the cost for this operation was 1. So using these two operations, he had to convert string A to string B, and he had to keep the cost as minimum as possible. Now, for after these two DSA rounds, for both of us, the final round was hiring manager round. So first in the round, I was asked about my projects at my previous company. Then he discussed the projects on my resume in detail. And then there were behavioral questions like what would you do in case of a disagreement in team? How do you make your code related decisions? In case you're working on something and you have doubts, so how you go about solving those doubts, or how you make a decision which one of the choices is a better choice. So all those things. So it was pretty much a discussion type of a thing rather than a question answer round type. Yeah. And after the hiring manager rounds, we got our results, and we got the offers.
This pretty much sums up my complete experience with Flipkart in detail. So I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope you'll do great in your Flipkart interviews. Just in case I missed out something, do mention in the comment section, and as always I'll try to address it there. So with this, I guess we'll end our today's video. Thank you for joining. Stay safe and keep learning.